My name is Chief Sjolander, and I'm the police chief in Kenyon. And I see 2 cameras on me, so I'd like to add right away that the camera adds 10 pounds. So there's an extra 20 right from what we've got going on here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll try to answer what I can. What I don't know, I just make it up and say with authority. Yes, dear? I don't know. Is this better? Hello? Hang on. Testing. Oh, look at that. She is so smart. Okay. I don't like podiums because I like to walk around a lot in case people throw stuff at me. If I talk too loud or get too boomy, let me know. All right, so my name is Chief Sjolander, and I'm the police chief in Kenyon. I do a fair amount of public speaking, but I love groups like this because what I see here is I see a ton of knowledge. And one of the things I've noticed as I've aged is I've gotten a little bit wiser, not much, but I've aged a little bit, gotten a little bit wiser, and I see a ton of knowledge here. And I always tell that to my young groups when I'm speaking is I said, do yourself a favor and listen to the older people in your life. Ask them questions, hear their story. You know, we've gotten so techy and so fast that I think we've lost the ability to tell stories. And I think it's real important for us as we get a little bit older to take the time and visit with our younger people and kind of tell them what's going on. So, all right, so today's talk is getting to know the real person. Now, all of us do this where we kind of judge somebody at first glance. You judge a book by its cover, right? You look at something and you think, oh, maybe they're a good person, maybe they're a bad person, whatever. Kind of figure it out. Dude, I'm talking here. What do you... Am I done already? I just got here.
Lapel mic.
Oh, lapel mic? Okay. So, how many of you ever heard of Kenyon? Anybody? Really? You've heard of Kenyon?
I talked with a lady from Kenyon, northern Minnesota.
Oh, okay. All right. Kenyon, as I like to tell people, is not Kenya, Africa, because people ask me that all the time. Where do you work? I work in Kenyon. Kenya? No, that's Africa. They have giraffes. We have tractors. Lot smaller town. So Kenyon, as I like to tell people, is kind of in the middle of everywhere, but no one's really heard of it. We're a town of 1,800 people. And I tell people, first of all, I go, well, do you know where Faribault is? And I actually get some that go, no. Oh, go ahead. Okay, do you know where Minneapolis-St. Paul is? Yeah, okay, we're south of Minneapolis-St. Paul by about an hour. We're 50 minutes from Faribault. We are 45 from Owatonna and Rochester and so forth. Kenyon's an interesting town, and I like I said, I do a lot of public speaking, and I always like when I'm speaking to like law enforcement groups, like young guys just getting into this career field. So many of them are like, well, I'm gonna finish school and I'm gonna apply for jobs and I'm gonna get the first job I apply for, and I go, yep, good luck with that. So I got out of school and I play in a band. I actually play out here at Treasure Island a great deal. So this is kind of fun being out here like this and not being out here playing in the band I play in. So I play in bands and I hang out with musicians, and a friend of mine named Todd's a guitar player, and I'm at a show watching Todd play, and his girlfriend says, hey, you went to school to be a cop, right? And I go, yep. She said, have you found a job yet? And I said, nope, just finished. She said, well, you should call my dad. Maybe he'd hire you. Oh, okay. Where's he working? Well, he's the chief in Kenyon. I go, where's Kenyon? She goes, I don't know that way. I said, okay. So I called him and said, hey, I'd like to, come down and talk to you. And he said, sure. So I went down and gave him my resume and schmoozed a little bit. And I left. And I thought, well, that didn't go so hot. He didn't really say much to me. Well, then he called me later on that week and said, hey, spoke to my daughter. She says you're a good guy. So why don't you come on down and work for Kenyon part-time? Yep, I'll do it. I didn't even ask about the pay. I didn't ask about anything. This was 1995, and it was tough to find cop jobs at this point. And I'm like, yep, I'll do it. And then as we were getting into this, I thought I should probably ask what I need or what it pays or whatever. I got paid $10 an hour, and I had to buy all my own gear, everything. So I thought, well, we'll make this work. And I'm going to be here maybe 6 months. Someone's going to realize how awesome I am, and they're going to pick me up. There's no way I'm going to stay in little tiny Kenyon. That just can't happen. With all this awesomeness, no way. I've got to go to a big city or something. So I started in Kenyon part-time in 1995, and I liked it. And the more I kind of hung out in the smaller town, the more I liked the pace of it. I liked knowing the people I work with, and we don't have 10,000 policies, and I kind of can do things like knock it off, or I'm going to go and call your parents, and it worked. So I started there part-time. I had a financial cleansing, which is my divorce. So most cops have at least one. That was a big financial cleansing. So I get divorced, and I'm working part-time, and then I get hired full-time in Kenyon. And at that point, if you're a full-time officer, you had to live there. And it's a small town. I didn't have much money or anything. So again, being a small town, I get a phone call going, "Hey, I heard you got hired here full-time." "Yep." "You interested in buying our trailer?" And again, "Yeah." I thought I should ask where it is first and what kind of shape it's in. But so she told me the address, and I'm like, oh crap. We've been to this trailer a bunch for calls, and it was kind of a dump. And I said, "How much you want for it?" She said, $6,000. I said, "I'll buy it." So I lived in this trailer. I lived in one bedroom and kind of gutted everything and cleaned it and got it so it was presentable. And I worked in Kenyon, and that was it. So I'm working full-time. I have my little trailer house, and I'm doing my thing. And our chief leaves, and we go a year without a chief. Dan Brewer, who looks like Colonel Sanders over here, Dan and I were both the full-time officers there. And we had a couple part-timers, and we made it work. He had darker hair. No, we did, didn't we? Because we decided, we were like, I don't know, we'll just punt, and it worked out well. So this job is not rocket science, and people that tell you it is, I kind of disagree with that, because it's people skills, and it's kind of doing the best that you can do with what you got. So Dan and I are working, and the city says, "Hey, we think we're going to contract." Great, that's awesome. I might lose my job after I just got a house, and I've been here for like a year. So we contracted with the sheriff's office. Sheriff McNerlin was one of my bosses, great man, and I love that mustache. I could never grow a mustache like that if I tried. So we joined the sheriff's office, and I worked there until 2007. Still lived in Kenyon, did my thing there. And in 2007, the city said, "Hey, we think we want our own police department back," which is kind of unheard of in a small town. And they did it. And I'd lived in Kenyon, and people said, "Would you consider applying to be our chief?" And I never wanted to be a chief. I had my dream job. I wanted to be an investigator for a sheriff's office. That was what my mentor did. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I was doing. I was a narcotics investigator working for a task force and doing general investigations, and I loved it. And then this came up, and people in town were like, "It's never going to work, it's never going to work." And I'm one of those type A people that if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to prove to you that I can. So I quit my good paying job with union protection and a bunch of seniority, and I went to a town and started a police department basically from the ground up. Now, the city did most of the work. I just got the credit for it, which I'm fine with because that's what most administrators do. "Yeah, that's a good job we did." And it's like I just sit and write checks and whatever. So we started a police department from the ground up, and it was really, really cool because we had to do everything. How many cars we were going to have, how many employees we were going to have, what were our patches going to look like, how about our badges, what were our hours, where was our office going to be, and we had to do all these things, and the city and the citizens were amazing, and I give them all the credit. I just walked around and went, I don't know, let's just buy one. So then we did that, and one of the big things that surprised me with this is people saying, "You know what? I like seeing our name on the side of a squad car. I like knowing my cops." And I thought, well, that's really cool. And I thought we would get more like, man, this is a lot of money, and are you going to arrest local people or all these things? And we made it work. So we started hiring cops. Now, Kenyon's a small town, and for any of you that have worked in public safety, small towns, as most of you know, are a good starting point. So what we do now is we're kind of a training ground for young officers. Because here's what happens. I get all these, "Hey, Chief, oh, I follow you on Facebook. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'd love to work there." I go, "We pay about as much as a Honduras dirt salesman, you know that, right?" And I'm kidding. I mean, our pay is good and I'm not complaining, but I go, "This is not like a metro department." "Oh, I don't care." Okay. So we hire officers and we give them their start. And I get a lot of our officers are like a cookie cutter. It's the typical, guy that's physically fit, short hair, likes to hunt and fish and do stuff like that. And then it's my job to get them to a point where they kind of know there's a big difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And in a small town, that's a good spot to learn that. So we work on that a lot. And I'm getting my officers, I'm getting them trained, and boy, I'm giving them assignments and little things to do to keep them interested, and then I get the, hey, can I talk to you? Oh boy. It's like when my wife says that, I know there's something wrong. Hey, I need to talk to you. Oh boy, what's up? So I applied for this larger agency and they're backgrounding me. Oh, good for you. That's awesome. Oh, you're not mad? I said, no, I think that's wonderful. I did that. I was small and I went large and then I went back to small again. So I think it's fine. Okay, and I get it. And a lot of them want to leave because, of course they get more money, but they get more stuff to do. They get, in a small town, we don't have a SWAT team. We don't have a K-9 unit. You're not going to be a sergeant. You're not going to be a lieutenant. The way it works in Kenyon is if you're working, you're the boss. That's just how we do it. If something comes across, you do it. And I tell all of our staff, you catch them, you clean them. That's how we do it in Kenyon. And they're like, what does that mean? I said, you'll learn soon enough. And then they come to me with some crap sandwich and go, here. And I go, no, you caught that, you clean it, or you made it, you eat it, whatever. And we work it through. So I get young officers and we train them, and then they go to larger agencies, and I visit with them a great deal yet when they're gone. And I asked one, I said, how's it going? He said, man, this is awesome. I'm going like up to 25 calls a day by myself. I said, wow. But he said, I kind of miss having fun. And he said, I have fun with my coworkers and stuff, but he said in Kenyon, we could visit. You go to a call and you take care of the cat in the tree thing or whatever's going on, and then the person wants to tell you about, well, I have a relative that works as a cop, or do you know so-and-so, and have you ever looked at this house over here, and blah, blah, blah. In large cities, you don't get to do that because you're busy, and I completely understand that. So you go from call to call to call. So I was speaking with one of my former employees, and he said, hey, I wanted to call you and tell you I had this thing going on, and it worked out really well, and he said, I had to do my Kenyon nice. Oh, I said, what is that? He said, well, when I worked in Kenyon, I kind of learned how to schmooze people and talk and visit. And he said, I learned a lot from you that way. And I had this call, and the guy was really upset and wasn't going to give us a lot of information. And he said, I started to visit with them, and he talked. I said, good, you call that Kenyon nice. That's interesting. Okay, so that's what we do. We get officers, we train them, and they leave. Now, I've had some officers since the beginning. I've got a part-timer named Andy, God bless him, he's been with me since I started in 2007. Shannon worked for us for 4.5 years before she went to her hometown agency, and she's still on our part-time roster, so we get people that come and go. We are a really small size department. We have 3 full-time staff, including myself. So I have Amy, who works full-time for us. Love her, she's great. Ben works full-time for us. Love him, he's amazing. They're both pretty new. And then myself. And then we fill in the rest with part-time staff. So it's funny when you talk to larger agencies and you're like, well, I work this precinct and I work here, and they might work years without meeting people who work in the same agency. Everyone comes to my house to eat. We have dinner, we break bread at my table all the time with officers. They stop over with a question, they had a bad call, they want to decompress, my door's always open. And it's funny because I'll talk to other officers and they're like, I don't know my chief. I saw him twice, he calls me buddy. Hey, guy, and then they leave. He has no idea who I am. That's weird. I go, have you ever been to his house? Oh gosh, no. You ever been to his office? You ever had coffee? No. That's weird for me because that's how we do it in Kenyon. And I love that. I love having officers come over and say, hey, I want to visit about this call I was just on. Okay. And then one of the big things is, how did that go for you? I ask a lot of open-ended questions. It's what you do when you're an investigator. Tell me more about that. You ask open-ended questions. So we train new officers, and we send them out in the world, and they do good things. All right. So I get to learn the real person, and I get to have a hand in molding new officers and getting them, sometimes you got to pull them aside and politely go, if you do that again, I'm going to stomp on your neck. Or something like that, however we say it, to get them to not do it again. But they normally do a great job, and the nice thing about living and working where you work is if you don't do a good job, the locals will tell you. They have no problem calling you out on stuff. So let's talk about the Facebook page and kind of what we started going with there. So how many of you have Facebook? Okay. How many of you knew before today that we had a Facebook page? Some of you did? Great, okay. So some of the best things in life happen by accident, and this is one of them. So we started our Facebook page, and I'm kind of a goofy guy. I like to do things different than the average person. So when I did our Facebook page, I wanted it open. I wanted people to be able to comment on it. I didn't want to do, yeah, we arrested this guy last night for this, and that's it. I didn't want to do that. And I'm not bashing the agencies that do that. That's fine. That works for them. But I didn't want to do that, and part of it is because we're so darn small that if I put something on our page that said, last night we responded to a domestic on Home Street, 8th Street, whatever, and we arrested a person, everybody's going to know. And I have a hard time with that just because I know everybody knows me, and I would have a hard time having some kid go to school the next day and go, hey, I saw on the Facebook page that your old man got arrested last night. So I just don't do that. Now, I'll put information, hey, we've had a rash of car break-ins. We assisted another agency with a guy that broke into a house in Kenyon, stole a purse. I put that up on our page, and that worked out really, really well. But I don't put the dirt. I figure, there's enough of that negativity out there. And that goes in our police blotter, in our newspaper. So I wanted the page to be a little different and a little fun. So I started it, and I thought, well, I'm going to share what we do and how we do it. So I just started putting things like, who can tell us how tall our tallest officer was? Any idea how short our shortest officer was? How many female officers have we had? How many cars do we have? Oh, how much do you think a squad car costs? And I would just put it on the page. And when I started the page, I thought, well, if I get 500 people that follow it, that's pretty cool for a town of 1,800 people. I thought that would be awesome. 500 people want to talk about what we do and how we do it. And one day I was sitting in my house in my penguin pajamas, drinking my coffee, and I thought, I had a thought. So I'm going to just share it. And I called it Thoughts from Chief Sjolander. And I just wrote about whatever was on my mind. Kind of a therapeutic thing. And I sent it out there. And 3 people liked it, or 10, or whatever. And so I started doing more thoughts. So as I'm getting older, I'm looking at our youth, and I'm looking at our youth like how my parents and maybe some of you look at the youth. Pull your damn pants up. Turn your hat the right way. Quit talking that way, things like that. So I did a post called Advice for Youth, and I sent it out and I went to bed. And I get up in the morning and I look at my Facebook page, and I think it had like 30,000 views. I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot. I mean, that's more views than what we have for people living in Red Wing or in Faribault. And then it kind of kept growing. And I'm looking at it, and now there's 80,000. And people are sharing it, and they're commenting, and blah, blah, blah. Well, by the time that was all said and done, that had been viewed at that point over 220,000 times. That's mind-blowing to me that a goofball in a town of 1,800 people could write anything, and more than 5 people would want to see it. And then you get that many, and then the comments were really good. I agree. Yeah, I think this is this way. Kids nowadays should learn this, and it was a very positive thing. And then this little light bulb went off, and I thought, if I can write something and reach 220,000 people, now that might have been a Hail Mary pass, a once-in-a-lifetime thing. But I thought if I could write something and reach that many people, we could do some really cool stuff with this. Now, that started this whole humanitarian thing that we do now. And we're going to get into that here soon. So I'm writing my little posts here and there, and I don't write a post to get likes or views, and I don't write a post to poke the angry bear. Now, I know people that do that. I really want to kind of stir it up a little bit, so I'm going to write about a controversial topic, and I'm going to just voice my opinion out there, and if you like it, fine. If you don't, tough luck. And there's a lot of feedback back and forth. I didn't want to do that. I thought we see so much negativity, and doing what we do, it gets old after a while. You want to see some of the biggest complainers ever hang out with cops. You know, we get cynical at times, and that worries me, especially with young officers, because now I've been doing this over 20 years, and I still enjoy what I do most days. But I worry about that young new officer that everyone's an a-hole, everyone's a liar, everyone's this, everyone's that. And I get it because we do see a lot of negative stuff. But like we tell our officers, I go, don't forget about the 90% that you don't know. We have people in our town that we will never have a contact with except for waving at them. They lived in the same home forever. We've never been there. You know, you might say hi to them or something, or that's it, or their kid's ball rolls in the street and you kick it back into the yard, and that's your contact with them. And that's most of our public. We all have our frequent flyers, our 5 to 10 percenters that are completely driving you crazy. And we start to focus on that, and it's not good. So I try to change that, and I do it with social media. So I thought, man, that many people, we could do some fun stuff. And it kind of took off. So I started writing about people. And I was real careful when I started this because you have a huge audience. And I'm not bragging, I'm not saying I do, but I'm just saying when you put anything out on social media, you can have a huge audience. So you got to be careful what you do and how you do it. So I started writing about people's needs. And again, being a small town, if you'd ever come to Kenyon, when the squad car's in front of the office, the door's unlocked. People walk in our office. We don't have bulletproof glass. We don't have secretaries. You walk in and the officer's sitting at the desk either playing Mahjong or maybe doing cop stuff. I don't know. Whenever I walk in, they tell me they're doing cop stuff, so I like to believe them. I don't know. Shopping on eBay, I don't know. So people come in and they're like, hey, do you know where I could get a job? Do you know, is there anyone in town that's good at fixing cars? Because we don't have a lot of the resources that large cities do. We don't have homeless shelters. We don't have missions. I mean, our churches are great, but they've got limited funds and abilities and so forth. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll write about it. So I asked people. So people come in and I get to know them on a real personal level at times. So I'm coming back from a conference one time, and City Hall calls me, because if you pull the door and no one's there, you go to City Hall, right? And you go, hey, is the cop here? We got the numbers on front, people can call if they want and so forth. Okay. So Sue is our bookkeeper, and Sue says, hey, there's a guy in here and he wants to know if he can sleep in our municipal parking lot. It's like winter time. And I said, what? Like for a couple hours? Like, is he traveling somewhere and he's tired or what? And she said, well, maybe you should talk to him. Okay. And I felt real bad for him because here's this guy that doesn't know me, I've never met him, and he's having this real personal conversation with me while a complete stranger is standing across the desk. And he basically tells me this, hey, I got a job in town here and I'm working, but I'm at that point in my life where if I don't make my car payment, I can't get to work. If I don't get to work, I can't make my car payment. My car payment is, it's not huge, but it won't let me afford a house payment or rent. So I'm kind of stuck right now. I've couch hopped a little bit, but you know, I'm tired of that. Okay. So I said, well, yeah, you can sleep in our municipal parking lot. And I said, when I get into town, I'd like to meet with you. So I met him and I gave him a couple bucks and gave him my cell phone number. And I said, if you need anything, give me a holler. You know, I live in town. Okay. So I went home and I told my wife, I affectionately call her Mrs. Chief. I told her about this guy. And she went, well, how long is he going to stay here? I said, I have no idea. So I checked on him the next day after work, you know, and he wanted to sleep there again. And I said, yeah, that's fine. And I went and told my wife, and she gave me that look that wives give their husbands, like, hey, goofball, why don't you just tell him to come stay with us? I said, well, if you guys are okay with that, I'm cool with that. So I told the guy, I said, hey, my wife wants you, and I do too, of course, would like you to come stay with us. No, I don't want to do that. I said, okay, as the police chief, I'm ordering you to do it. And he fell for it. So I should try that at home. As the police chief, I order you to make your bed. See how that goes over. So he stayed with us. And his name is Daryl. He's a great guy. He's pretty funny. And I wrote about him on our Facebook page because I said, you know, hey, to try to find you a place to live, Are you okay if I write about you? Yeah, that's fine. And I was a little vague about it, you know. And I said, a lot of us, most of us are probably 2 paychecks away from being Daryl. You know, things happen and all of a sudden you are homeless or carless or jobless or whatever. So it took off, and a friend of mine contacted Boyd Hoopert. Now, if you know who Boyd Hoopert is, but he's an amazing anchor person for KARE 11, and he does the Land of 10,000 Stories. And he can tell a story. He's an amazing person. I love Boyd. He's a great guy. So I get an email from Boyd Hoopert, and I'm like, this is probably like a joke or something. And he said, hey, somebody contacted me about this homeless guy staying with you, and I'd like to come down and do a story on it. Okay. Well, at this point, what had happened was I wrote about Daryl, and we got him housing. A lady friend of mine said, hey, he can stay in my apartment. I have an apartment in my home. He can stay there rent-free as long as he mows the lawn and takes care of the snow removal and just helps out. We'll do that for 6 months, and then he can pay rent or whatever they ended up working out. So I introduced those two, and it worked out. Well, now he's got an apartment, but he's got no furniture. So I go back on the Facebook page. Daryl now has a place to live, but he doesn't have anything to put in his house. And I was getting phone calls, and people were just dropping off stuff, and we furnished his apartment for free by good people that want to have a hand in what we do. And that is mind-blowing to me, especially doing what I do for a job, because we see so much negativity, and people do horrible things to one another, and then they try to justify it, belittle it, whatever it is they do. And so when people come to me and go, hey, I've got 2 dressers and a bed, and I drove from, Elgin, I'm like, holy cow, thank you. And hey, I've got some dishes. They're not fancy. So I don't need fancy, I need something that holds water, I don't care. And it worked out. So Boyd came down and did this story. And that kind of took off from there. So more people followed the Facebook page. And then this whole humanitarian thing kind of happened because of it. And if you would have told me 20 years ago that A, I would still be in Kenyon, and B, we would be doing all these humanitarian things, I would say you're nuts. I was supposed to go to a big agency and be Mr. Fancy Pants. I wasn't supposed to be a small town chief. So we kept doing these good deeds. And we learn who the real person is because we are so small. So if you followed our page at all, I'll tell you a couple of people that we've helped. We helped a young lady who I called Pat. Pat is now maybe 17, so this was when she was like 15, 16, and Pat is a young lady, and for those of you that remember being a young lady or know young ladies, those years are tough years anyways. Even if you have the right clothes and the right name and the right hair and the right whatever, it's tough being a young kid. It just is. So one day I'm walking out of the office and I'm heading for home, and I walk out the door and Pat walks by and she's crying. And I'm like, don't ask her what's up, just go home. You told your wife you'd be home in time. She sent you a text message that said, don't be late. And I said, I won't. And I'm walking to the car and I turn around and I go, don't do it, don't do it. Why are you crying? Oh, damn it, you did it. Oh, you asked her why she's crying. Kids are mean. And I'm like, yep, kids are mean. Suck it up. Tomorrow's a new day. Grow a tough skin. Thanks for visiting. I got to go eat goulash. And she's like, well, and then we sat and talked. And here's Pat's deal. Pat said, people tease me at school and they call me a boy. And Pat looked manly. Pat had short hair and wore boys' clothes. So, and again, I don't judge. I could care less. Wear whatever you'd like to wear as long as your lady bits and man bits are covered. I don't care. I'm an easygoing guy. So, being old and being kind of blunt, I said, well, you dress like a boy. If you don't want to be called a boy, maybe you should dress more feminine. And she said, I dress this way because I have to wear my brother's hand-me-downs. I don't have clothes of my own. Now there's getting to know the real person right there. You could have looked at Pat and said, tomboy, whatever, right? But no, now we're sitting and we're visiting, and she tells me this really personal thing. And she doesn't really know me. I'm just the goofy, big-nosed police chief that waves at her, because she lived across the street. I said, wow, okay. So I visited with her a little bit more, and I said, well, would you like to dress like a girl? She goes, well, yeah. I said, okay. I said, well, I happen to know some people. So I call my wife and my daughter, and I go, hey, if I bring somebody home, could you maybe help them find some clothes? And they said, yep, no problem. So Pat comes to our house, and they go through a bunch of clothes and shoes and whatever else, and it's all good. So I talked to Pat some more, and I find out that they live in a one-bedroom apartment. She sleeps on the couch, so this kid does not even have her own bedroom. There's other kids in the house, there's really no privacy, some typical household drama that people get, and I understand that. So I visit with her mom, and I said, hey, are you okay if I write about this, because we have a lot of people that follow us, and we could maybe help you guys out? And the mom said, yep, that's fine. So I changed the name to Pat, and I wrote about her. And I said, this young lady needs girly things. And I had hairbrushes, I had body soap, I had razors coming out of my ears, I had shoes and purses, and I thought I might do my Christmas shopping this way from now on, I don't know. So I would go knock on her door like every other day with a big bag of stuff and say, here, take what you'd like. If it doesn't work, doesn't fit, bring it back, and we'll put it through the cycle somewhere else. And Pat started dressing like a young lady. Lipstick, earrings, girly shoes. We got her a computer. She didn't have a computer for school, so I wrote about that, and a gentleman donated an older laptop. It's like, she just needs something that does word processing. She doesn't need anything fancy. Do her homework on it. Okay. And that's what we did. And it worked. And that is getting to know the real person. And when you can make a connection with somebody like that, doing what we do, I think that's awesome, because hopefully somewhere down the line, Pat will pay it forward. And that's kind of what we do in our little small town of Kenyon, is we help people out. So we do programs like the Shops with Cops program, and if you've never heard of that, what it is we take kids holiday shopping, Christmas shopping, and we take care of what they have. So they come with a list, and it says, okay, who lives in your house? Well, my mom, my dad, or brothers, uncles, cousins, whatever. Okay, and we take them Christmas shopping. So when we started this, and the reason we do this, I'm gonna back up here just a smidge. The reason we do this is because I benefited from that program when I was a young kid. So talking about getting to know the real person, when you look at me, you might think, okay, small town police chief, probably had, maybe his dad was a cop, mom was a nurse or a teacher, blah, blah, blah. My story is pretty different. So I ended up in a foster home at the age of 13. So I don't know my father. I know who he is, but I don't know him. He could be sitting in this room right now. I would have no idea. So my mom makes a lot of poor choices in life, and she ends up losing her kids. So the shortened up version is at the age of 13, I was tired of seeing the drugs being dealt and used. I was tired of seeing my mom getting thumped like a punching bag. I was tired of moving every 6 months or every couple of years. So I ran away from home, and I took my brother and sister with me, and we ended up in foster care. I ended up in Fairmont, Minnesota, chain of lakes. So I'm now a 9th grader in Fairmont, and I'm starting to kind of reinvent myself. I'm not Lee, the guy whose mom makes a lot of poor choices and the cops show up and blah, blah, blah. I'm now Lee, the foster kid. And so we had worked through this. So when I'm younger and the drama's going on at home, Austin police officers took me Christmas shopping. And I'll never forget it. And that was 100 years ago. And I remember I bought my mom, 4 wine glasses and a John Denver album. Brought them home, gave them to her. And I thought, that was a really cool thing to do, and I'll never forget that. As long as I live, I'll never forget those cops doing that. So I thought, well, now that I'm the big cheese, why don't we do that? So I went to the city, and I think sometimes they just tell me yes because they're afraid of me, like he's really kooky and weird, so let's just say yes so he gets the heck out of my office. I don't know. So I went in and I said, hey, I really want to do this. And the city, of course, said, well, how are you going to fund it? And I said, I don't know, what if I do a fundraiser? Okay. So we came up with a t-shirt. And now every year we design a new t-shirt and we sell it. And we take that money and it goes into our shopping program. So the first year, our shirt has the little patch on the front, and then on the back it has a funny saying. I think last year's shirt was one of our biggest hits, and it said, police department toilet stolen, cops have nothing to go on. And we sold a lot of shirts. And we never got our, actually we did get our toilet back. Somebody put a toilet in front of our office one time. So we have fun. So I write about this, and I'm like, hey, we're selling shirts, we're doing this, we're taking kids shopping. And people started to send me money, just cash and checks and stuff. And I'm not bragging here because I'm honored and I'm very, very humble. But I'm humbled by it. But it's weird to me to go to my mailbox in City Hall and get a check from somebody in Australia saying, hey, I follow your Facebook page and I know you do the shopping thing, and take this money and buy someone something fun. That's cool. People just stop in and give us cash. Hey, I follow you on Facebook. I like what you do here. Okay, thank you. So it's blossomed, and it's really, really successful. And what we do for like our holiday shopping is we shop in town, which is kind of tough sometimes in a small town, but again, knowing the real person, I know our local business owners, and they know me. And I know that if I buy, my hammer at the local hardware store, Cameron, who owns our hardware store, is 24 years old. He graduated with my middle kid. And that's small towns for me. That is, I can walk in and go, hey Cam, how's it going? Good, Lee, how are you? Fine. I need this, and I get it. And I know that money is going back into his business. I know it's him making his house payment. It's him paying his staff. And I'm not saying big box stores or the internet's bad. I'm just telling you that that's what we do in our small town. So it's now holiday time. And the first time we went shopping, I'll share this. So I have a friend named Josh who is an ex-Army Ranger. And he was an officer for us. Big, tall kid, had a big dip of chewing most days. Love him to death. So I tell these guys, hey, we're gonna go holiday shopping. This is how we do it. We do it plain clothes, off duty, our own vehicles, and we got a bunch of kids. Okay. So we do our shopping, and I've been a parent for a long time, and I'm watching Josh, who at this point was not a parent, and I'm watching this really, really tall, really somber Army Ranger trying to negotiate with a 4-year-old kid over why she can't have 5 Barbies. And I'm just kind of standing back and I'm watching this, and I thought I should go help him. No, I'm not going to help him. I should go help him. No, I'm not going to help him. So I walk over and I said, how's it going? And he goes, she's not listening to me. I said, well, that's weird. And he said, and what's up with her shoes? She had those plastic, fake princessy high heel shoes on that young kids wear. I said, Josh, that's called picking your battles. Huh? I said, here's how this goes. You're not going out with those policemen wearing those shoes. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Then the kid has a huge meltdown and they fall on the floor and the parent says, fine, hope your feet freeze off. That's how that works. So we did our shopping. And I got a kick out of watching Josh going over going, no, hon, no, I told you, no. Okay, no. So it worked out fine. And we've been doing it every year since. So what I've noticed about our small town, though, is when I bring a lot of these kids to our small businesses, they've never been in them. I didn't know we sold this at the hardware store. I didn't know we sold this at the jewelry store. I didn't know that because everything's .com and it's a big box store. So I like that. So we take all these kids, we do all this shopping, we take everything back to City Hall, and then I have wonderful volunteers that come in and wrap everything for us. And then I dress up as Santa Claus before Christmas, and my coworkers drive me around and we deliver the stuff. And that's our Christmas shopping program. It's a ton of work. And every year I do it, I'm like, maybe I should just stop doing this. It's a lot of work, I should be doing other stuff. But every year, around this time of year, hey, you gonna do the shopping thing again? Hey, I know some families from school. And that's how we get our families, is either calls that we go on, or the school tells us, or whatever. So that's how we do this. And it's taken off, and it fills my bucket, if you know what I mean by that. We see and have to do some horrific things at times, and I still have a hard time with some of the things I've had to see and do and whatever. And then when I can see a young kid come up and hug me and go, hey, Officer Lee, that was so cool, and check out the hoodie, I'm still wearing it, and that's great, refills my bucket. And that's important for all of us. And when I give this talk to cops, fill your bucket. Find something to fill your bucket. And I'm not talking like going out with your buddies for choir practice and getting hammered. I'm talking hang out with people that aren't schmoes. Hang out with people that aren't breaking the law. Do some fun stuff that way, and it works. So, well, the shopping programs work so well, and having ADHD like I do, I go, oh, we're going to have a free garage sale. And I write about it on the Facebook page. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, you should maybe think of how you're going to do that. How's it going to work? So what we did is we did this Garage of Goodness. We had a free garage sale, and we did it during our Christmas in Kenyon. So what we do is I put out the word, and I go, okay, we're going to do this free garage sale. If you have stuff you want to get rid of, bring it into us, and we'll take care of it. And I've learned a lot over the years. When I first did it, I got everything. I got couches, beds, TVs, everything. Nobody wants couches. Nobody wants big, old TVs. And I've had to get a little more selective. I also don't want your stained underwear or T-shirts. I don't want one shoe. I don't want holey socks. I pick up some stuff and I'm like, I wouldn't wash my car with that. I don't want it. So, but people have got good hearts and I'm cool with that. So we get all these tables and I get help, and we have a police reserve, and I ask them and they want to help, and we're folding clothes and we're getting girl clothes and guys clothes and shoes and everything, and we're working it, and we're going to run it from 12 to 4. Okay, it's winter, open up the door, 2 people walk in. I'm like, oh, Lee, you idiot. You're going to be stuck with all this stuff. Well, then 2 more people came in, and then 5, and then 10. And then people are taking their cell phones, and they're like, oh, hey, geez, click. Do you want this chair? It's free. And then somebody writes back, and they're grabbing stuff. It got so busy in there that we had to open both garage doors to get people in and out effectively. Kick that one right out of the park. I had maybe 25% of the stuff left, which I either give to the local thrift store, or I give it to the Epilepsy Foundation, or I ended up paying to have those couches removed. Nobody wanted couches, so whatever. But that was awesome. So I'm walking around like this crazy ringleader, and I'm like, hey, I'm Lean, if I can help you. And when I'm not working, and again, this is all off duty, when I'm not working, you would not know that I'm a cop. I wear ratty jeans, cowboy boots, Fender t-shirts, so I'm running around introducing myself, and if you need help, let me know. And one of our local businesses, a landscaping company, great people, said, hey, if you need trucks to haul stuff, you let me know. And we'll have our vehicles come and we'll load stuff. How awesome is that? And it worked. So I'm calling them going, this lady wants these 2 dressers and this oven or stove. Okay. So they come with their trucks and they load the stuff and they delivered it for free. How cool is that? It worked out great. So we do it every year now. And we call it the Garage of Goodness. And people come in and they grab stuff. And I put it on the Facebook page. Come, I don't care who you are. You don't have to just live in Kenyon. If you want to come and grab some stuff, feel free. Okay. So I'm walking around, and we're a very agricultural-based town. A bunch of farmers, love them to death. So I see this guy, I've never met him before. He's walking around, and I said, hey, I'm Lee. Anything I can help you with? Clothes are in here, and housewares are out here, and whatever. He's like, no, I'm good. Okay. So he's walking around, and we did a tip jar, like a donation jar, because some people are very pride-filled, and I get that. And if you want to throw a buck in the jar and grab a bunch of stuff, that's fine. And if you can't afford it, you don't have to, but I give people the option. So this guy comes up, and he gives me a check. And I said, oh, thanks. And I look at it, and it was for $500. I said, you can get a lot of housewares for $500. And he said, I don't want anything. I just like what you do, and this is my way of thanking you. Took that money, put it in our Shops with Cops program, and it goes. This guy gets me a donation now every year. $500 comes in and gives us the money. That is amazing. Don't really know the guy, we've never had coffee, have never had a call for service. He just likes what we do, and I like that. It helps me refill my bucket. So that program's been very, very successful. And people send us money, and we take kids shopping, and we have a good time. So a gentleman comes in one day and says, hey, my sister passed away and she lived out of state from here though originally, follows you on Facebook, and this is kind of her way of touching base with home. Well, that's cool. So we're settling her estate. She wanted the money to go to good things, so here, and he gives me an envelope. Now, I don't know etiquette, right? So I'm holding this envelope, and I said, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry to hear your sister passed away, and we're visiting, and I'm like, do I look at it? Do I don't look at it? What if it's $5? What if it's $5,000? I have no idea. What are you supposed to do? So our visitor goes, well, you gonna open it or what? Oh, that decision's been made for me. I open it, it's $2,000. That's crazy. And I said, oh my gosh. Well, around this time, it's just about school shopping. So I said, hey, would you be okay if we took this money and used it to take kids preschool shopping? And he said, I don't care, sure. And I said, would you like to come along with and see this? Well, sure. I thought, how cool is that? He can see his sister's, money go to good works and whatever. So I called a guy that I know that owns a limousine, and I said, hey, and he went, no. I said, I didn't even ask you anything yet. I said, would you be willing to donate your car and your services and take a bunch of kids shopping? He said, sure. Now, you can't really buy shoes and backpacks and notebooks in Kenyon, it's tough. So I contact Target in Northfield and I go, hey, this is who I am and this is what I want to do, and what's your name? And I don't know, Sally. Okay, Sally, you're my contact person. I'm sure she's like, crap. That's what happens when you answer the phone. You catch them, you clean them. So we line this up, and I think we took like 9 kids shopping. So they all pile in this limousine, we go to Target and we shop. And every kid got a new pair of shoes, a new outfit, backpack, notebooks, and whatever. And Target was great. They opened up their little deli thing, and they got them all hopped up on sugar for us. And they got like a personal shopper. They were treated like little kings and queens. And I know a lot of these kids, and I know that they don't have much. I know one kid, his father, who's now since passed away, dad's dying of cancer. And this is knowing the real person. I don't look at this kid and go, he's just some 8-year-old kid. I know these people, and they know me. And this is getting to know the real person. And it's rewarding, it's heartbreaking at times. So we do our shopping, do our thing, go back, the kids are great. Well, this has led us to do other things. Now, we just did the shopping thing again for back to school. We took 13 kids this year. And we learn as we go. This year, we had the parents come with us and help because it's a little easier having moms and dads there. So I learned a lesson, and this is how we do it. I seriously get to work every day not knowing what the hell I'm doing. I just make it work. I'm like, we're gonna figure this out as we go. So we do our shopping thing, and we help these people that need a helping hand. It's not a handout, it's a helping hand, and all we ask them to do is pay it forward. So I get a message one day from this lady that says, hey, I used to live there, I now live out of state, and I love what you do. I'm gonna send you a check, watch for it. Okay, that's cool, thank you. So she sends me a check, and it's for $500. Like, that's awesome. And she wrote a letter, and she said, I think you should do with this whatever your heart's desire is. It's your discretion. Maybe you should take Mrs. Chief out to eat. Well, I'm sure my bosses would love if I cashed a check for $500 and took my wife out on like a dinner date. They wouldn't have a problem with that at all. She would think that's cool, but I kind of like working yet. So I thought, I like that. So we started our Heart's Discretionary Fund. And I have an envelope in my desk drawer filled with cash. And people come in and they have a need, and we give them cash. And I'm sure a large city, if any of you are cops in large jurisdictions or whatever, you're like, there's no way in hell would they let us have an envelope filled with money that we can just give to people. And I'm not saying everything we do is gonna work wherever you're at. But for us in our little tiny town, this works, and we do it, and we're gonna continue to do it until people tell me not to do it, I guess. I don't know. So I've got this money, and we use it for stuff, and people come in. And it's not like the soup kitchen vibe where you might be thinking it's all day people with their hands out. It's not that at all. It's once in a blue moon somebody comes in, or we'll hear of something. So I'm speaking with a gal at her house about a call, and I look at her windshield and it's cracked, and I go, what happened to your car? Well, my tires are bald, I went in the ditch. It was raining, I hydroplaned in, I hit a rock, and I'm like, were your kids in the car? No, thank goodness. So I said, okay, take your car to the local garage, and we'll pay for 2 new tires and an oil change. Okay. I said, well, buy a windshield if we can find one cheap. She goes, my boyfriend has a windshield, whatever. Okay. So $230 or whatever it was, I don't know, to get new tires and the oil change. I said, I just want this car safe. She's got kids in her car. And that's what we did, and so I wrote about it, and more money came in. So I have a gentleman who comes in about a month and a half ago. Now, we own our own utilities in Kenyon. We don't have like Xcel Energy. We've got Kenyon Municipal Utilities. So Pam works our front desk at City Hall, calls me, and she goes, hey, I'm gonna send a guy over who wants to visit with you. Okay. So he comes over, and I know this guy. I've met him before, talked to him and his wife and his kids, and nice guy, works hard. He comes in, and he's got this bag of goo off of his side, and he goes, yeah, they won't let me work. I go, well, what a rotten boss you have. I would let you come to work with that thing swinging off your hip. Blah. And he says, I need $92 to pay our utility bill. I'm really worried about it. I said, okay. So I go to the drawer, and I give him the money, and he goes, I'll pay you back. I said, I don't want the money. All I ask of anybody that benefits from any of this stuff is pay it forward when you can. That's all I want. Hold the door for somebody, buy them a meal. You know, if you have an extra $50 and you know somebody's got a need, give it to them. Refills your bucket. So he comes in, and I give him, and he's almost in tears about this. And I mean, I'm not wealthy by any means, but $92, I mean, come on. We could probably in here individually scrape up $92 pretty easy if we needed to. So I give him the money, and we are visiting, and he goes, hey, is there any chance, like, if you have any extra Dankeschön. Oh, sorry. 15 minutes. They said I could talk till 4. With no bathroom breaks. Remember we talked about that. Okay. So he says, do you have any like extra pencils or pens in here? Because my kids are going to need some school supplies. I said, you know what? We'll take care of that. So I contact his wife, because women are way smarter than guys. And I go, hey, would it be okay if we took your kids preschool shopping? She's like, oh my God, you are a godsend. That'd be amazing. And we did. So notebooks and pens and outfits and so forth. And that's what we do in Kenyon. And it's funny how you get into this line of work. I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and where I'm doing it. Life just has a way of working itself out. And if you would have told me when I was a young kid and all the drama and all the muck that someday I'd be wearing a badge and a gun and talking to fun people about what we do in our small town, I would have said, you're crazy. So I wanted to be a rock star. That didn't pan out, so I did this instead. This pays better, I think, long term. So we continue to do these kinds of programs, and it kind of mushrooms. And I'll talk about another quick program here. I tell people this, I like animals more than I like people. I really do. So we started our own animal impound. We use the vet clinic, and they're great people, and I love them to death, but $15 a day for impound fees, after a while, can really add up. So to save some money, I contacted some friends, and after all these years of doing what I do and making contacts and visiting with people, I have a lot of network. I can call people for just about anything and go, hey, how do you do this? And how does this work? And do you have one of these? And it helps out. It works out good. So we're visiting. See if I walk around, it makes the cameraman all nervous. See, what if I go like this? So somebody called me. They can wait. Okay. So we take in animals now. And it's a small town. And this just happened the other day. I'm being interviewed by some gentleman, and this guy comes in and goes, hey, I found a dog, and he brings it in, and I go, hey, Toby. And these guys look at me like, what? I go, yeah, that's Toby. Is that your dog? I said, no, it's not my dog. You know who owns whose dog? I go, yeah, it's a small town. Yeah, we do. So Toby went home, and it was all good. So we do this animal impound, and at a class or something, and the officer calls me and says, hey, they send me pictures of animals. Do you know whose dog this is? Because a lot of our part-timers don't work a lot, so they don't know all this stuff. So I'll get a picture of a dog or a cat, and I'm like, yeah, that's Shadow, or that's whatever, or, you know, it's Dirty Butt Jimmy, and he lives over here. Okay. So we get this dog in, and I get a picture of it, and I don't know whose dog it is, I've never seen it. And the officer says, it's got something up with its head. I said, okay, well, I'll check on it tomorrow when I'm back, or the next couple days, whatever. So we have our little impound, and we take care of the animals. You know, we walk the dogs and feed them and all this stuff, and the cats, we change litter boxes and do all these things. So I go in and I look at this dog, and its head's like caved in. And I'm like, well, what the heck? I mean, it's like a farm dog. It got kicked by a cow or something. I don't know. So I take it to the vet, and they go, ooh, this is bad. Oh, okay. What is it? It's got this atrophy. It's got a really bad tooth infection, and this atrophy is causing its muscles to like cave in. I said, ooh, well, we should probably fix that, huh? Yeah. I said, okay. And again, having ADHD, just fix it, and I'm sure we'll get the money. Because I'm an idiot, and I just go, oh, go ahead, we'll figure it out. So I wrote about the dog on the Facebook page. And sure enough, we have a lot of animal lovers, and this one lady contacts us and says, hey, I'll pay for this. Okay, that's awesome. Part of me, though, says, you know, no offense, I don't know you, and what if I tell you this bill's $500 and not $50, and you can't pay for it? Now what? So I keep the post up, and people are sending us money. So I take all this money, and I take it to the vet clinic, and I named this dog Vincent, after Vincent van Gogh, because with his head caving in, its ear was kind of weird. I come up with weird animal names, and people think it's funny. So we do this. And the bill, I think, was like $300 or something to fix this dog. And this dog is a huge escape artist. This dog, you cannot, it's a cattle dog of some sort, I forget what it is, but they're super, super smart, and this dog needs room to run. So actually one of our officers is pulling into the office, and this lady's walking a dog, and the officer goes, huh, that dog looks just like the one we have in impound. And the lady walks up and says, yeah, this dog was running in my neighborhood. And the officer's like, oh crap, that's our dog from my impound. So this dog could get out of our kennel, and it would go to the door. Yeah, it was like this, these like kind of long ones, and he would hit it and open it and get out. So he would be running all over town. So we get this money, and we fix up Vincent. So we started at the vet clinic St. Vincent's Fund. So when we have animals that come in that need work, we can pay for it out of that. And it's things that work in our little tiny town, and maybe they wouldn't work in a big city police department. But I challenge you to do this. How many of you work for a company or an organization where you could do something like that? You know, we work for a graphics department in a large corporation, and we saw this goofy police chief talk, or we heard about him talking, and we think we're going to start a little program where we take 2 families Christmas shopping. So we're going to do a little office pool where, you know, you wear blue jeans on Friday, it's going to cost you $5 to wear blue jeans on Friday, and all that money goes into a kitty, and then we find some families and we take them shopping. Any of us could do something like that. And if it's not in you to do it, that's fine too. Some people are like, dude, I'm not into the warm hugs. That's just not my thing. I don't like that stuff. I'll donate to it, and that's fine too. But we all have somebody that we can help out along the way. And we talk about this when I go to like chiefs conferences and stuff, and I see these chiefs that, you know, are driving desks all day, and I'm not bashing them, I'm not. You know, they do their thing, I do my thing. This is what I wear to work every day. I am a patrolling chief. I go to barking dog calls, I go to medicals, and then I go back and I work on budget stuff and all that boring chief stuff that you have to do. I go to meetings and I talk. And my city is great because they let me do stuff like this. They could say, yeah, you're not doing that, stay here. Okay, that's fine. They pay my bills, it's cool. A high five for you too. That's not 10 minutes? Okay. I thought you were giving me like high fives. What do I know? All right. So, in closing, I'll tell you this. We're only here for a certain amount of time. And it's amazing the impacts we can have to do the things we do. And I've learned so much over the years by talking to some people, and it's short. It's little things. And I got an email one day from this kid. I was a school cop for a number of years in Pine Island. I love that job. Oh my God, that was a blast. And this kid says, hey, Officer Lee, you might not remember me. Well, I remembered this kid because he would get sent to my office for doing dumb stuff. And my punishment, I mean, again, I think outside the box, and what I do is pretty unorthodox at times. And so what I would do is if you got sent to my office for doing something stupid, it's not really criminal, but the school counselor is busy, and the principal says if he sees you again, he's probably going to throw you through the window, so you come and see me stuff, you know? So what I made you do is I made you read the book out loud, Everyone Poops. It's a kid's book. And it talks about everyone poops. So these kids have to sit in my office and read me this book out loud as their punishment for doing the dumb things that they did. So this kid read this book to me a couple of times. And he writes me and he says, you probably don't remember, but like one of the last days of school, I bugged you about being a cop and what you do and everything. And I don't remember having this conversation with him. I don't. So he's now a Metro police officer. And he said, talking to you that day really kind of made me decide that this is what I wanted to do. I'm like, good Lord. That's amazing that I would say something to somebody that they would want to do something like that. And I don't remember that conversation. And we all have conversations like that. You'll tell somebody, hey, you look really, really nice today. Or, hey, I saw you do a good job on that presentation or whatever. I tell my staff, my coworkers, I hate calling them staff, they're coworkers. We're all the same there. I tell them all the time how much I appreciate them. And I do. I appreciate, we have 2 squad cars. If I get in the car and it's clean, I'm a happy guy. You know, I appreciate that. And I'll send them little messages, a note, whatever. So with that being said, Tom's gonna start throwing stuff at me. I'll give you a couple minutes for questions. If anybody has any questions of me, I would be glad to answer them. So does anybody have anything?
Do you have any t-shirts that we can buy?
Not yet. We'll have more t-shirts.
I'm not one of them kissy huggy kind of guys.
I can tell that.
One of my staff members sitting next to me has pages full now of what I'm going to be doing.
That's good. I like that.
I think that your humanitarian efforts are to be commended,
Thank you.
and no matter how small your position or your consideration to your community, the impact is great.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Sheriff. That means a lot. And here, write this number down. Put that on every female bathroom wall in the whole casino. No, that is my cell phone number. So if you have questions and go, you know, hey, and just start small. You'd be surprised. And just, it'll bloom. It really will. It's kind of fun. And people, especially nowadays, we need to give a better image as far as public safety. We do. And 95% of us are out here doing the same things I'm doing now. But it's that little 5% that make it hard on all of us. So anything you can do to get your public interested in what you do and how you do it, and to have that face time and get to know them as real people, you're gonna be way better off. When I retire, I keep teasing my officers. I'm like, you know, I don't know which one of you wants to be chief next, but I can't wait to give you the cell phone. They're like, I do not want your cell phone. I hope they don't just put my cell phone number back in the general populace, because some of the messages I get are pretty weird. Hey, Chief, can you come over and look at this? I think it's infected. I'm like, yeah, we'll send an ambulance right over. That does look infected. So, all right, thank you all very much. Unless there's any more questions, I'm going to turn it over and we're good here. Thank you all very much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your conference. And please thank Tom and Dan and everyone else and Rosie and staff. They really, I know conferences are a lot of work. So thank you guys for all you do. I appreciate you.